You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor ceramic hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor ceramic hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor ceramic hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor ceramic hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order.
But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40 verse 31. This verse is a very powerful reminder that trusting in God can bring renewed strength. Perfect for the drivers to keep in mind as we'll be racing this evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, motorsport enthusiasts, fans around the world and the Caribbean. Welcome to round 2 of the JSRA's Caribbean Touring Car Championship. I'm Stephen Stewart, your host and commentator for this evening's showcase at the iconic Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. We're here in beautiful Victoria, Australia for round 2, season 5 of our Australian tour at one of the most picturesque and challenging circuits in the region. Known for its sweeping curves, high-speed straights, breathtaking coastal views, and a total of 12 turns, we expect an exhilarating experience for both drivers and spectators, as this is not the first time we here at the JSRA has raced at the brilliant Phillip Island circuit. However, we do have some new and returning faces. Roger Keller there, now currently residing in P5 with a 1 minute 40.916, has after a few months hiatus was returning home to Switzerland for his own personal motives, has now returned to his sim and is ready to resume his battles here this evening, as well as our own, or one of our newest, Mr. Reese Enzivino, a Floridian of Sicilian descent, who we have seen in our Formula 4 Championship on Sundays, making his debut this weekend in our Caribbean Touring Car Australian Tour, along with a few familiar faces, Mr. Davil Park, who definitely had his run-ins last weekend, putting the moves there on Michael Charles in the latter stages of race 2 and taking that P2 position from him. And we have Mr. Stéphane Tremblay of Canada, Kimani Eastman, Michael Charles, a lot of new faces, a lot of returning faces here. I'm very excited to see what's to come as we dive into the action. Today our touring car is equipped with the push-to-pass system. Since the last season, we'll be navigating this 4.5 kilometer track, adding an extra layer of strategy, testing the limits and giving drivers the opportunity to gain that crucial edge whenever it matters the most. Mr. Chad Dillon there, your commentator, the host with the most typically behind the scenes, but now they're on track showcasing his own talent. So excited as always to see him and his showcase and fights and battles. Live weather implementation has also been added for the season since last week, so we'll be following the real life forecast over there in Victoria, Australia, which should add an extra dynamic for the drivers to navigate through. The coastal location can lead to some unpredictable weather affecting grip levels and car handling, so drivers must be ready to adapt accordingly. The temperatures have been overcast and extremely cool since the start of the series, beginning at as low as 5 degrees ambient and 3 degrees track, and now seeing 9 degrees on the ambient temperature and 10 degrees on the track temperatures. The track has 3 notable heavy braking zones, particularly into turn 1, the Doohan corner, turn 6 by Siberia, and MG corner, another heavy braking zone in turn 10. As always with these cars, the long straightaways should provide excellent opportunities for slipstreaming, allowing cars to gain speed and plan some very exciting overtaking maneuvers. Reese Enzivino now sitting on not provisional pole, but definitely the fastest of the lot so far with a 1 minute 40.637, only a thousandths faster than Mr. Sandman himself, Mr. Rohir Robinson. So very excited. Him, Michael Charles, Jaden Harrison should be there to put some very exciting times down. Stéphane Tremblay and Kimani Eastman now being the two not used to the top 6 spots, but still finding themselves here this evening in the top section of the or top split, let me say, of the grid. So very interesting stuff to see here. Kimani Eastman being one of the typically in the mid pack, now finding himself in the top 6 spot without even using up one of his push to passes. So very excited to see where he will be, as he is our own resident Lando Norris, as I will take solace in the fact that the Boston Celtics, the basketball team of the JSRA, did win their 18th championship last week or this week. And our next team to watch is the McLaren Racing team. Both the Boston Celtics and McLaren's last victory was legitimately 16 years ago, both with Lewis Hamilton and the Kevin Garnett led team. So if it's anything to go off of, we are seeing a lot of traction there over in McLaren, and we did tag them personally to remind them that, hey, it's been 16 years since we've got a championship and we need one more. So definitely off to a good start. This evening we will have a 15-minute qualifying session, as always, starting in roughly about 2 minutes, maybe 3, followed by 2 20-minute sprint races plus 1 lap, with the second race being a reverse grid of the top 10 drivers from the first race's results. We will have a brief interview as well with the top 3 from each race, as well as at the conclusion of the reverse grid race. There are a few key sections and turns for this evening, starting off with the Doohan corner, as stated earlier, following the Gardner Straight, which is a start-finish line. Turn 1 is a fast right-hander where late braking can make all the difference. Drivers will be using the push to pass on the exit of turn 12, which is the final corner, in defense or offense, often resulting in some side-by-side battles through that corner. The Southern Loop Turn 2 is the next run-up, with a medium to high overtaking potential. A long left-hander providing opportunities for overtaking, especially if drivers can carry more speed through the corner and position themselves well for the exit. Leading up to Turn 3, the Stoner corner, a fast sweeping left corner that requires confidence and a steady hand. This corner can make or break a good lap time and will be crucial, especially for a good qualifying session or a good defense in the race. We may even see drivers using the push to pass system on that run up through turn 3 to help dive down the inside, leading up to the Miller corner by turn 4, one of the prime overtaking spots on the track. A tight right-hander that requires heavy braking, making this a prime hotspot for dramatic passes, as we do typically see here in the Caribbean Touring Car Championship, similar to what we saw last week at Albert Park in Melbourne, with the likes of drivers such as Mikhail Charles loving the run on the inside by turns 9 and 11 and utilizing that push to pass to their advantage as best as possible. So the next corner is the Siberia corner, which is turn 6, being a notable corner which boasts a tight left-hander that we have seen previously as a favorite for overtaking maneuvers in some previous races. We can take a step back at the Radical Championship in the Chase for Pace, which was round 1 of our Chase for Pace series a few months ago. But the exit is critical for setting up a good run towards turn 7. Next up is turn 10, otherwise known as the MG corner, and that is a sharp right-hander where heavy braking again is necessary and a spot for overtaking, as drivers will look to position their car to either make a move entering the corner or to get a better exit onto the following short straight. Turns 11 and 12 are the final 2 corners, with a left-right combination leading back onto the Gardner Straight. A good exit from turn 12 is essential for maximizing speed on the straight and capitalizing on slipstream in the midst of battles, leading right back into Doohan corner by turn 1 for the conclusion of that track. As it stands, free practice is now over. Mikhail Charles does sit at least about a tenth over Mr. Reese in P2. Rohey Robinson a thousandth off of Reese Antevino in P2. Jaden Harrison now did say he had taken a slight break from sim racing to do more real life driving this week, so he is trying to reacclimatize himself there in this week's Caribbean Touring Car. Luis Daniel Velez as well, just getting a grip, well, just starting practice on this track in this car, but luckily has done enough laps on this track in previous races. But as the final driver comes around, Mr. Christopher Elliott comes around to rally around to finish his final lap. The grid has been set. Qualifying is now underway. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited for the 15-minute qualifying session to come, and in the interim we will just enjoy a short break. Please sit back, relax, and wait for the starting and commencement of the round 2 at Phillip Island Caribbean Touring Car Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the action. This is not a race session, as you did see Mr. Chad Dillon there and Mikhail Charles having a little bit fun there on the starting of qualifying, but nonetheless we will ride along with Mr. Charles here, who is going to be the first to start a flying lap. This is their out lap, so please be wary as they will be going around and preparing. Chad Dillon there disconnecting from the server, not sure why, but I'm sure we'll find out soon. I'm sure he will be back in the server sooner than later. As it stands, 9 degrees Celsius ambient temperature, 10 degrees for the track, 12 corners, let's say 13 minutes to go by time Mikhail Charles starts his first flying lap, and only time will tell what will happen as Mikhail Charles comes around turn 11 to head to turn 12 onto the Gardner Straight and heads down to start his first lap and heads into the Doohan corner, a fast right hander. So let's get ready for his fast lap. Mikhail Charles there heading into Doohan corner, the fast right hand corner, as he heads down to Southern Loop turn 2. As we stated earlier, these are the moments where you are the points in the track where you are going to see a lot of action this evening comes around. This is what I'm going to expect to be one of the, not the DRS zone, but the push to pass zone or overtaking zone, heading up to Sonos corner, down into the heavy braking zone by turn 4 Miller corner. So I am expecting especially to see Mr. Charles here making some very dramatic moves, especially by turn turns 4 and turn 10. So those are our two, well, turns 4, turn 10, and turn 1 are going to be our anticipated overtaking corner or overtaking zones. But as Michael Charles heads out, he does head into turns 8 and then 9 by Lukey Heights, and then heads down around that left-hander into the downhill section by the as I said, the MG corner into that heavy braking zone. This is another place where we've seen a lot of action in the past, so it will be down to who is brave on the brakes, who is more confident with their brakes, and who will be able to make that move stick. As it stands, Michael Charles now rallies around turn 12 to set or try to set his fastest lap, but guess what? He's not the fastest on track at the moment. That would be Rohey Robinson, who does have the fastest sector 1 and fastest sector 2. Michael Charles now setting the fastest time overall for this evening with a 1 minute 40.5, but nonetheless Rohey Robinson now sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 40.2. But now we watch as Rohey did have the fastest sector 1, fastest sector 2, and Michael Charles had the fastest sector 3. So I'm sure Michael will be looking to quickly dismantle back that time. Roger Keller now sits in P3 with a 140.7. The next times behind are not going to stick as the indicative time for P4, I'm assuming at least, but as it stands, Luis Daniel Velez in P4 with a 1 minute 41.1. I'm expecting the top 6 to be in the 1 minute 40s. But this again, they will not be having the utilization of the push to pass this evening, so it's all on merit, ladies and gentlemen. As it stands, Michael Charles is still not necessarily making inroads, but is only a few, let's say hundreds off of Rohey Robinson in sector 2, but 2 tenths down on sector 2, so definitely not going to be looking to improve. Kimani Eastman was a surprise this evening, so I am hoping to see him maybe get the best of the rest or that final podium position. But making his debut, Reese Enzavino in P4 with a 1 minute 40.875. Now the top 4 only separated by a mere tenths, and then P5 is only, let's say, about 9 tenths off of the pole or provisional pole position. 10 minutes remaining to go. Jaden Harrison, who has been running as the resident Max Verstappen here in the Caribbean Touring Car Championship, has not set an indicative time as yet and is now only 2 tenths up on his personal best, but still not enough to take that pole position from Mr. Rohey Robinson, because that personal best would have just been from the outlap on his first go around this circuit. But as it stands, 1 minute 40.238 by Rohey Robinson, 1 minute 40.490, an improvement for Michael Charles, but still not enough to make that top podium step. Michael did start practicing as always. Well, he did start a little bit earlier last week, this week, as he did last week. He did start in practicing in the qualifying session. Jaden Harrison now 800ths down on the car in pole position, so let's see what he can do. He is improving on his personal best, but still nothing too, it may be good enough for maybe the top 3 as he rallies around turn 12 to head on to Gardner Straight to see if he can get onto that podium, and does take that P2 position with the fastest sector 3 with a 1 minute 40.396. so definitely has some work to do. I believe we might, and very much so might, see a 1 minute 39 this evening. Reese Anzavino is somebody to look out for. He was a shocker there in the latter stages in practice, because he just started practicing this evening, so very excited to see what he can bring to the table. Chad Dillon now still there trying to find the pace now with a 1 minute 41.542, so definitely looking to see him improve. Stéphane Tremblay, who was in the 1 minute 40s in practice, is now in P14, so still has not set a indicative time, but we will be riding along with him because he is one of our most improved drivers here at the JSRA, as he was only a 10th down in sector 1 but a whole second down in sector 2, so we should be looking at him in maybe the high 41s, maybe low 42s, so we'll hopefully be looking to get in that top 10 split. But again, we should be expecting to see him in the top 10 before the end or conclusion of this qualifying session with a 1 minute 41.471 with the fastest sector 3. So again, is finding pace. Definitely looking forward to see what he can bring to the table in these stages of qualifying. 6 minutes, or call it 7 minutes remaining. Michael Charles now watching along with him. He's not seemingly improving. Jaden Harrison, let's take a quick look with him because he is on a flyer now with the fastest sector 2. And he did finish, but his sector 3 did mess him up. That last lap was or did possibly have him coming on board for that pole position, but again, we know Jaden will make his inroads, especially during the race, more than during qualifying, but I'm sure will be trying his best to see if he can outdo Mr. Sandman himself, Mr. Rohey Robinson there. But as it stands, pole position is given to Rohey Robinson, Jaden Harrison in P2, Michael Charles in P3. Nobody seemingly upgrading, nobody really looking to update their time, maybe to make a few moves in front, but not for the top podium at least. But we will just continue to monitor that as we go along. Mr. Charles now not on his fastest lap, but will be trying to set his next fastest lap with a 140.607, fastest sector 3. So does get a good run heading into Duhant corner, into turn 1, that fast right hander into the second corner, and will be trying to push to see if he can maybe dethrone the 2 ahead of him. As it stands, looks like it might just be as you're seeing it currently, but as we said, the top 6 now separated by a mere 6/10. I am expecting Reese. He did in the Formula 4 Championship, not last week but the week before at Road America, did put in a surprising P4 start to the grid, so definitely somebody to look forward to in the Caribbean Touring Car Championship, and a lot more to come, especially with him. He just started practicing in his car, so expecting to see his time go further and further up the ladder, as he does currently sit P6. P5 is Mr. Kimani Eastman, again only 200ths down on the car ahead. Mr. Roger Keller, who has been on almost a 3 to 4 month hiatus, has not been on his sim in quite some time, but clearly showing that he has not missed a step and is now sitting in P4. Kimani Eastman will be hoping and praying that we will not be paying attention to him this evening, as to not give him the commentator's curse, because this would be his best starting of his tenure here at the JSRA. But as it stands, Jaden Harrison, Rohey Robinson and Michael Charles now top off the top 3. Rohey Robinson now starting his fastest lap, or sorry, his next hot lap, coming around the southern loop by turn 2. The head on the long straightaway into the left hander by Stoner's corner, turn 3 into the heavy braking zone, denoted the Miller corner, into the tight right hander by Miller corner, let me say, into turns 5 and 6 by Siberia. So again, not improving. He is a 10th down on his personal best. So we will follow along with him again sooner than later. We're hoping to maybe see the 39s, but as it stands, and let me not say too quickly, because Jaden Harrison now with the fastest sector 2 and only a 400ths up or down on his 400ths up on his personal best in sector 1, so we'll be rallying around turn 12 right now as he speak. and will be trying his best to see if he can dethrone and take provisional pole as he leads up to the start finish line. Jaden Harrison with a 1 minute 40.003 did say that the 39s were possible, and he missed it by a mere 0.003 of a second. Jaden Harrison now on provisional pole, 2.5 minutes remaining, immediately goes into the pits and says clearly he has enough pace to put this thing away. Mikhail Charleston will be running, and as you saw him there exiting the pits, is trying his best to get out as quickly to set his fastest lap. I'm sure is now kicking himself and saying, hey, let me see if I can at least dethrone the car ahead, Rohir Robinson, or even try and put my foot into the top step with Jaden Harrison there. Luis Daniel Velez now, somebody who we know does put in practicing late. He is focused on the Saturday series, the Chase for Pace series, now a 10th up on his personal best, and will be trying to see if he can dethrone Mr. Charles there for P3 and get that final podium position. But again, he's typically very good in race pace in these Caribbean Touring cars because he starts off slow, just like Mikhail Charles does not get much practice in the week with these cars. His running mate, Mr. Carlos Villavicencio, unfortunately will not be making it this evening. He did reach out to me and say that, you know, he has work, and unfortunately we will be missing him this evening. But as it stands, it does not look well. It is a possibility for him to dethrone Mr. Charles ahead. So he is running and running and running, coming out of turn 12 onto the Gardner Straight and sets his fastest lap of the race, but still only 200ths off of the car ahead, Mr. or 300s, let me say, Mr. Mikhail Charles. So Luis Daniel Velez now on his final, I would say this is his final flying lap to see if he can dethrone that final position of the podium. Roger Keller now still only 200s up on Kimani Eastman. Kimani Eastman should be pushing now to see if he can definitely try and get back that position from both Mr. Roger Keller as well as Mr. Daniel Velez. Reese Anzavino is now in P7 and will be trying to dethrone the cars ahead. Unfortunately, again, does sit in P7 and will be trying his best to see if he can dethrone. But Roger Keller now 4/10 off on top step, so definitely not looking to improve. I think he can definitely bring that car into the pits after this lap and just hold base. Rohir Robinson now as well is on his final lap, as well as Mikhail Charles, who does put it into the gravel, does see that he will not be improving and just puts that car and heads back to the pits. Rohir Robinson and Daniel Velez are the two now to watch to see if they can dethrone, but Daniel Velez definitely will not be improving into that top podium step. But Rohir Robinson will be the final position or person who we believe can dethrone. He's now 900th off the personal best, off of the fastest lap of the race, sorry. So still in contention, let's say, has 2 sectors to go, and as he leads into turn 8, well, comes out to turn 7 into turn 8 and heads down Lukey Heights up to turn 9, we'll be heading to the MG corner by turn 10, which is that downhill heavy braking zone, which will bring us to the end of sector 2, which we should be able to see how he hits and is 2/10 off of the fastest lap of the race. So definitely not looking like he will be improving much here this evening. Looking around the boards, nobody really putting a foot forward. So as it stands, this may just be the finishing, and Reese there, as I spoke, was looking like he could have possibly dethroned somebody ahead of him, only 700ths up on his personal best, and still a relatively good time to put in a very good lap. So hopefully he will have enough pace to put that car even a position or 2 ahead of him, maybe dethrone Mr. Kimani Eastman or Roger Keller, or even a Daniel Velez as he heads around to turn 10 into MG corner and heads and caps off sector 2 and is a full second down. So as it stands, ladies and gentlemen, this will definitely be the finishing order of this evening's race. So we did see him run wide there. That might be a little bit of commentator's curse. My apologies there, Mr. Reese. You can cuss me off after the race. But as it stands, ladies and gentlemen, this does look like the final qualifying position for this evening. We will definitely look forward to two 20-minute races plus one lap for each, followed by a reverse grid for the top 10 after the first race's results. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the quick break from our sponsors. I am noticing some persons in the comments stating that this was an exciting qualifying session, and I definitely agree. What a qualifying session there for Jaden Harrison. They're taking pole position from Rohey Robinson. Mikhail Charles was definitely not one to want to give that one up, and we saw him pushing, and we do know he does have race pace, so definitely one to watch during that race session to come. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick word from our sponsors, Ceramic Hair and Emmanuel Boutique.
You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the drivers on the grid. The positions start from P1 to P14. Ruben Espinosa did just leave the server, so hopefully we'll be back before the beginning of this race. But nonetheless, Jaden Harrison now sitting in P1. Rohey Robinson, Mr. Sandbag himself, in P2. Mikhail Charles in P3. Luis Daniel Velez in P4 of Nova Racing. Roger Keller in P5, Kimani Eastman of P6, Reese Anzavino in P7, Stéphane Tremblay in P8, Chad Dillon in P9, Chris Elliott in P10, Luis Arenas in P11, Davil Park in P12, and Nicholas Donald in P13. Hopefully we will see Ruben come back, but as it stands, it does look like he might be missing the start of the race, unfortunately, as we have 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, 6 lights, and the lights are now gone, and away we go. Jaden Harrison there definitely getting a good start, but Rohey Robinson there definitely not giving up, but Jaden Harrison using up one of his push to passes. Mikhail Charles already looking to make a move there. Luis Daniel Velez also looking where he can squeeze in, and there's a trio going out of turn 1, ladies and gentlemen, into Southern Loop around that left hander, and this is the start of the CTCC race, ladies and gentlemen. Mikhail Charles has made the move stick on Rohey Robinson. Rohey Robinson should not be looking to leave that as it stands, because he does already turn on his lights as they come around Stoner's corner. This is the next overtaking zone, and you will see that heavy braking right then and there. Rohey Robinson on the outside, Mikhail Charles on the inside, holds that line side by side. Daniel Velez now looking right there, ready to pounce on anybody to make a mistake, but they are still side by side coming out of Siberia, turn 6, let's say, side by side still. Ladies and gentlemen, these two are unrelenting, and unfortunately for them, they are literally just giving that place to Jaden Harrison to just move and run and get away. But the three, Rohe Robinson, Daniel Velez, and Mikhail Charles now fighting it out for that P2, P3, P4 position. We did say the times are close, so clearly these three are already getting it ready to fight for that position. Daniel Velez looks on the outside, looks on the inside as they come out of turn 10 into turn 11 and heads around to the final corner by turn 12. Jaden Harrison already with a 1.3 second lead. Kimani Eastman now 2/10 off of Roger Keller and seeing if he can make a move stick here, there, or anywhere. But as it stands, the top four are separated by mere tenths here and there. Daniel Velez does look heading into Doohan corner of turn 1 into the southern loop by turn 2. Does see if he can maybe make a move on Mr. Charles the Trinidadian, with Roger Keller there now hounding the rear of the Colombian Mr. Velez as they head up into the Stoners corner by turn 3, that fast left-hander into the heavy braking zone. So this is again the overtaking positions. We did state turns 1, turns 4, and turn 10. Those are the positions to be looking at. And there goes Roger Keller sending a dive there on Luis Daniel Velez to take that P4 position from Daniel Velez, but Daniel Velez does not give up on it too easily. Roger Keller there lost out. Not sure what happened to him there. Maybe running a little bit too wide there, but Daniel Velez though not losing too much time, but did lose a few tenths there to Mikhail Charles, who is now running away with it to try and head back and catch back up to Rohe Robinson to see if they can mount an attack in the latter stages or the mid stages of this race. 21 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, 17 minutes plus 1 lap remaining to go as they head down by MG corner turn 10 into turn 11, and the racing is still separated by mere tenths all throughout the track. So clearly a very good start, hoping that's not the commentator's curse, but the drivers are now fighting their ways. Stéphane Tremblay using up one of his push to passes and does understeer. These are front wheel drive cars and understeers right off of the track. Jaden Harrison there now with a 1 minute 40.6. Fastest lap of the race so far has been Rohe Robinson with a 140.3. Mikhail Charles now following suit with a 140.6 as well. So as it stands, the times are there, ladies and gentlemen. Only we will be able to watch and see what is to come. The gaps have built up a little bit more, so hopefully that will give a little room for interpretation. Roger Keller now 2/10 off of Kimani Eastman, sitting in his best position now in P5. He did start in P6. Roger Keller now definitely taking a look on the inside, not the ideal racing line as you saw in the last lap before this. Kimani Eastman now holding on to that P5 position, 1.6 seconds off of the car behind in front, and will be trying to make inroads into the cars ahead. This track is very demanding on tires, so we are going to be monitoring this as the race goes along here in Victoria, Australia. So we might actually see a late dive or a mid dive into the pits depending on how the tires react. But there is Chris Elliott taking a look, maybe thinking, could I put a move on this Colombian here? But that was Davil Park and Chad Dillon there making contact, and Davil doing a little bit of drifting there to kind of catch back that car. But you are noticing that number moving from 5 to 4. That is the usage of a push to pass. Jaden Harrison being the first person to use one, and now sets the fastest lap of the race without a push to pass on that lap with a 1 minute 40.312. So he is definitely again with the Max Verstappen-esque class of racing here, putting on a show to maybe try and keep himself away from the pack, not waiting on them to come and catch them. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is just the start of this race, I cannot imagine what's to come. Roger Keller there now again taking that look on the inside, and I'm guessing will be sending a dive. No, he does not. Mr. Kimani Eastman there definitely a little bit braver there on the brakes. We have Mr. Roger Keller here from Switzerland on track. He used to be one of the consistent racers and finishers here at the JSRA, so happy to see him back, and another seasoned driver here to race with us on this Friday evening in Victoria, Australia. We will be monitoring him, but Chris Elliott now is the next or closest driver on track to another fight or battle, maybe trying to put a little bit of pressure there again right there into turn 10. Does see if he can maybe put a little bit of pressure there to force the Colombian ahead of him, Luis Arenas, into making a mistake. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a Dalmatian designed livery ahead of him, so Chris Elliott will be trying his best to see where he can make that move on the Dalmatian Chevrolet Cruze. But nonetheless, Rohir Robinson there using another one of his push to passes, and does take that fastest lap back from Jaden Harrison, now only a second behind, or 8/10 let me say, behind the car ahead. He did ask me personally to leave his name out of my mouth during commentary this evening, so definitely looking to see what will come of that. If there is really and truly a commentator's curse, because if it does happen this week, I will take the blunt of the blame there, because every week that I've stated his name, he has found himself in an incident. But after last week's festivities, he did say that he's going to try his best to maybe find himself not in as many incidents. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, we'll just sit back for now and just watch as the drivers will be finding their way through this track. I mean, the gaps are still relatively close. This is very impressive. As we've seen in prior races at Phillip Island, the drivers do tend to have relatively clean races. They do have some dramatic dive bombs in the latter stages, as denoted by Mr. Dillon himself, the desperation zone. So expecting to see some moves later down in the race. But as it stands, Roger Keller now 5/10 off of the car ahead, Mr. Kimani Eastman, who will be trying his best to hold off the fighting Swiss driver behind him, and will definitely be trying to make his debut back here at the JSRA something to be remembered. Let's see what can happen. But Rohir Robinson again using up one of his push to passes, now setting the fastest lap of the race with a 1:40.148, so faster than even his qualifying lap as they swoop around heading into the southern loop by turn 2. And Rohir Robinson is now in that Elantra, right back on the rear of that Honda Civic Caribbean touring car driven by Mr. Jaden Harrison, who typically by now does pull a little bit of gap, but now is under threat by Mr. Rohir Robinson, but I'm sure will be unperturbed as he does have 4 more push to passes to be used. I will expect especially 2 places coming out of turn 2 by the southern loop into turn 3 will be 1 push to pass usage zone. We'll call it the P2P zone, as well as coming out of turn 12. Those are the 2 sectors that I'm expecting to see drivers utilizing that push to pass in either offense or defense. But nonetheless, Davil Park there definitely trying to see if he can make his move. Chad Dillon there makes a move on Luis Arenas. These two did find themselves in a little bit of a tangle last week in their endeavors to see who can finish in the top 4 spaces. But nonetheless, Jaden Harrison there is sideways. Unfortunate as we took a look away, so you cannot blame that one on the commentator, because we did take a look at Chad instead of Jaden, but Jaden is now right in front of Chad Dillon, and Kimani Eastman is promoted into P4, Luis Daniel Velez P3, Mikhail Charles in P2, now hunting P1 in Rohir Robinson. Does see his opportunity to get away, and in the P2P zone does use one of his push to passes to go around sweeping Duhan's corner into turn 1, heading down into the southern loop. And Mr. Charles will be looking to cover or catch that inside line, not even for turn 1, turn 2, but into the heading into turn 3. We'll be trying to get that inside line. We know he's he's very confident on the brakes, and we'll be trying his best to see if he can make or mount an attack on Rohey Robinson, but clearly not close enough as yet, but does have one push to pass more than the car ahead. Mr. Rohey Robinson, Jaden Harrison now roughly about 5 seconds from this fight, so must be kicking himself. Is only 2/10 from Kimani Eastman. I'm sure Kimani will be using those push the passes in defense, as yes, they do go side by side heading into turn 7 out of Siberia into turn 7 into turn 8. They do go side by side. These are two clean races and they do respect each other. They're admins here at the JSRA, and clearly Jaden Harrison with the pace just uses his push to pass and makes that move stick. Kimani Eastman now P5, Jaden Harrison 3 seconds off of the car ahead, and then 8/10 of a second and a second to the two cars ahead. Only 9 minutes remaining, 8.5 minutes remaining, plus 1 lap. Who will be the victor? Ladies and gentlemen, we will stay tuned with this fight and this run or chase down for the top step, but nonetheless, Daniel Velez now 8/10 off of Mikhail Charles. Jaden Harrison, they're using up one of his push passes. Kimani saying, if you're going to go, you're going to pull me along with you, and does stick in the slipstream plus the push to pass and sets his fastest lap of the race with a 141.1, and Jaden with a 140.1, which is the fastest lap of the race overall, and they are on the hunt 2.5 seconds. Kimani definitely trying to use Mr. Jaden Harrison there to pull him along and see if he can either pull away from Chad Dillon, who is now 2.3 seconds behind Kimani Eastman, or at least pull him along to see if he can maybe catch back up to the top 3 ahead and see if they can mount attack in the latter stages. Anything can happen, especially when the top 3 are separated by only a mere few seconds. So only time will tell. Chad Dillon there mounting or just lurking there in the rear in that red Honda Civic. You are very much so used to seeing that car as it stands in the silver class. Rohey Robinson in P1, Mikhail Charles in P2, Daniel Velez in P3, and Jaden Harrison in P4, Kimani Eastman in P5. As it stands right now, Chad Dillon would be in P1 in his class, followed by Roger Keller, Devil Park, Luis Arenas, Stephen Tremblay, and Reese, who has been the biggest loser so far, unfortunately. Please be reminded as well that the top 10 will be reversed, so it is, if you cannot finish in the top podium steps, it's best advised to at least try and finish in at least P10 of the race to start in pole position for the coming race. Stephen Tremblay now using up one of his push passes to maybe get away as quickly as possible. Daniel Velez now is still on the hunt for Mr. Mikhail Charles. 6/10 down, 8/10 down is Mikhail Charles to Rohey Robinson. So we will only be able to watch and be patient as these drivers will be fighting and hunting it down. 6 minutes remaining plus 1 lap, so that's roughly about 10 minutes. Sorry, about 7 to 8 minutes, especially depending on where they will be finishing on track. I would say it's roughly about 5 laps remaining, maybe 6 depending again on where they finish. Roger Keller, they're losing out there to Devil Park, who did make the move in that Mitsubishi Lancer, but again Roger Keller loving that inside line, does take the dive but still not enough, and is just sitting there in the background with Luis Arenas and Stephen Tremblay. Oh, there's just a train here leading up into turn 6, coming out by Siberia into turn 7 and 8, and the fighting. We will just stay tuned with this battle because they are separated by a mere, let's say, between the 3 of them only about a second. Between the 4 of them, the 3 ahead of them. So let's stick with Stephen Tremblay, who will be there for the action to witness whatever is to come. I will take a brief intermission so you can listen to the engines and watch as these fights ensue. Hey, top 3, please be reminded where you need to park. Right by the first sign. Right, perfect. Rohit, thank you. Rohit should be in the middle. Wow. Where's Jaden Harrison and Daniel Velez? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was saying it during the yeah. Sorry, I said it during the driver's briefing. But yeah, that's fine. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Alright, good race though, guys. That did look fun. And ladies and gentlemen, what a race there for the first race results. Rohit Robinson taking it in P1 there. Rohit Robinson there finishing off in P1, followed by Daniel Velez of Nova Racing in P2, Jaden Harrison of P3, the Jamaican admin at the JSRA, Mikhail Charles of Trinidad and Tobago in P4, Chad Dillon in P5, Kimani Eastman in P6, Luis Arenas in P7. Again, he is a Colombian, not of Nova Racing, but is still representing his country very well and should be very proud to wave that flag high. Davil Park in P8, Roger Keller of Switzerland in P9, and Nicholas Donald to start in provisional pole position for the reverse grid in P10. Reese Anzavino in P11 and Stéphane Tremblay in P12. Chris Elliott in P13. Ladies and gentlemen, if that race was anything to go off of, I cannot wait for the second race. Again, as always, I'm already tired and I'm looking forward to another battle between these racers. But as it stands, Nicholas Donald in P1, Roger Keller in P2, Davil Park in P3, Luis Arenas in P4, Kimani Eastman in P5, Mikhail Charles in P6, Jaden Harrison in P7, Daniel Velez in P8, Rohit Robinson in P9, and Reese Anzavino in P10, Stéphane Tremblay in P11, Chris Elliott in P13. My apologies, Chad Dillon did leave and rejoin. He does start this race in P6. He did finish in P5, but nonetheless, our pole sitter who will be starting this race is Mr. Nicholas Donald and will be starting from the front of the pack. Looking forward to see what he is yet to come with in the starting of this race. Lights are about to come on. The racing is about to ensue. Good luck to the drivers, and I am excited for another 20 minutes of racing action. 6 lights are now on the way. And it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5, it's 6. And the lights are now off, and it's green light. Nicholas Donald with an amazing start there. Roger Keller definitely trying, or was not the best off the line. Davil Park there and Luis Arenas now trying their best to see who, but this is not the safest move as they head into turn 1, and Luis Arenas now does take the pole second position from Roger Keller and hugs the inside heading into the southern loop. And there is an incident there, ladies and gentlemen, and who was that lost? Yes, safety car please. And ladies and gentlemen, there was a safety car there, unfortunately, in the early stages of this race. I will be instructing the drivers to increase their speed, so please give me one moment as I give the race directorship as the race resumes. Green light, green light, green light, green light. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back with racing, and Nicholas Donald there, as soon as he could move, does make that move to get away, but Mikhail Charles already under threat there by Mr. Chad Dillon, but does hold off, and the race does start a lot cleaner than the last time. Luis Daniel Velez now making contact with Luis Arenas. Luis Arenas being the biggest loser there, and it's only a safety car if it's 3 or more cars. So unfortunate there for Luis Arenas, who was definitely keeping himself clean in that in the starts of that race, but unfortunately there has to make his way back through the pack. Deville Park there already using up one of his push to passes to see if he can close the gap, and he is in the cool down zone. Mikhail Charles now chasing him. Chad Dillon in P5 has made up one position. Daniel Velez now did drop back to P6 after that collision with Luis Arenas, my apologies. Jaden Harrison already there in P2, so again, always a shocker to see how quickly he moves, but is already pressuring Nicholas Donald to see if he can force him into a mistake. Mikhail Charles there and Deville Park are fighting it out to see where they can come out of this. Mikhail Charles there hugging the outside line, Deville Park hugging the inside line. That is definitely the preferred line, but definitely did not get the run out coming out of that corner. So as it stands, Nicholas Donald there using up one of his push to passes in the P2P zone. Nicholas Donald there trying to run as quickly as possible away from the cars behind. And the times are dropping, the gaps are still very close. Luis Arenas again is the biggest loser. He's only a second off of Chris Elliott in front, so still has room to make some positions. But there goes Nicholas Donald, who goes very wide, and Jaden Harrison uses it as his moment to capitalize. Mikhail Charles is now trying to see if he can put the moves onto Nicholas Donald, but guess what? Deville Park now is on the ID line and will be definitely trying, but Nicholas Donald now just locks him into a box. Mikhail Charles now hugging the inside line and will be trying his best to make that move move stick and does make that move stick. Daniel Velez now does look to see if he can make his position as well, see where he can fit in the mix of things. Nicholas Donald now does make some contact and pushes Mikhail Charles and causes an incident there between Mikhail Charles, Nicholas Donald. Both of them are now seeing themselves at the rear of the track. Unfortunate there. Deville Park there now fighting. Chad Dillon, promoted into P4, did use up one of his push passes and says, yo brethren, that is my moment to shine, and does take up that position to get away as quickly as possible. Deville Park there now sitting in the rear. There's a lot of incidents happening this evening. Daniel Velez and Deville Park are now hitting each other time after time after time, and the gaps are still separated by a mere few tenths, but nonetheless the racing has been relatively clean. The Colombian Daniel Velez is now on the hunt for that P3, maybe even a possible P2 position. 13 minutes remaining plus 1 lap. The racers did say that these races do feel long. I can only imagine it's because you have to defend for 90% of it. But nonetheless, there goes Luis Daniel Velez around the outside, heading into turn 2 by the southern loop, and I think he used up one of his push. No, he did not. Daniel Velez still with 5 push passes remaining, so clearly saying that he has the pace. And again, contact between him and Deville Park there. Rohey Robinson now giving a little bit of bump job there to Daniel Velez to say, yo, go, 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 go. Roger Keller now in the rear of Rohey Robinson. 2 drivers who started with our Tito Racing friends of ours, and Deville Park there closing the door there on Rohey Robinson. Again, contact is just none. I mean, we know rubbing is racing, but nonetheless, guys, come on, man. Reese Anzavino now using up one of his pusher passes, and again is hit by Roger Keller and is taken out immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the typical showing that we're used to here, but nonetheless the drivers are maybe getting a little bit frustrated. The red mist is overtaking them all as they are going and going and going. Rohey Robinson now a 10th off of the car ahead. Roger Keller now, again, he was the one that made that incident, and again more incidents. Luis Arenas now being the instigator of that one. Chris Elliott now is the one to watch to see what's happening. Mikhail Charles was in second to last position and is now finding himself, well, last position, sorry. He and Nicholas Donald, and now they are finding themselves back up the grid slowly but surely. Luis Arenas there waiting, I'm assuming, on Roger Keller to catch back up to him and give back that position. Good sportsmanship there from the Colombian. But nonetheless, the racing this evening has just been fight after fight, battle after battle, hit after hit. Rubbing is racing, but boy, there has been a lot more rubbing than racing this evening. Deville Park now 3/10 off of Rohey Robinson. We know Rohey has the pace. He did win race 1, and I'm sure will be trying his best to see where he can finish up in the podium spots. 1.5 seconds to Daniel Velez. Daniel Velez is only 5/10 off of Chad Dillon for that P2 position. 11 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, and I'm sure we're going to assume maybe about 8, maybe 9 laps remaining, let's say, with the push, with the extra or additional lap. But ladies and gentlemen, nonetheless, Daniel Velez being the closest gap now, on the hunt now for P2 to see if he can catch back up to Chad Dillon, both with only 4 push to passes remaining. Jaden Harrison, I'm sure, will be using those push to passes to maybe get the fastest lap and get that extra half point at the end of this race, and you know, just stamp his dominance as always. But typically by now he would have more of a gap to the cars behind. And again, does use up one of his push to passes already there early, and is now, I'm guessing, trying to either build that gap or just try and set the fastest lap as he is in the P2P zone. Luis Arenas there DNFing, unfortunately. I'm thinking just maybe seeing the blunt of his race being just unraveled and unwritten. So I'm sorry to see him leave. Not sure if it was intentional or not, but we will definitely speak at some point before the end of this evening. Rohey Robinson now 1.3 seconds off of Daniel Velez now, who should be trying to put the moves sooner than later. Kimani Eastman now 2/10 off of the car in front of Deville Park. I'm sure we'll be trying his best to see if he can force Deville into a mistake. and see if he can be promoted into that P5 position. Davil already using up one of his push passes there in the P2P zone, heading into the turn, what is that, turn 3, turn 4 by Miller Corner, my apologies. And these two will be fighting it out, I'm assuming, for the duration of this race. Both have 2 push passes remaining. One will be using it in defense and the other in offense. Who will be the victor? Mikhail Charles as well. Somebody starting in P3 at the start of the first race. We'll be looking to see if he can finish in the top 6 maybe, as he's not too far off of the few ahead. So 8 minutes remaining, ladies and gentlemen. Only time will tell how this race will finish. Chad Dillon there holding his own against the Colombian. He does have 1 less push to pass with 3 remaining to the car behind, so we know he should be using those in defense, and hopefully we'll be trying to hoard off the charging Colombian Mr. Daniel Velez in these stages. We are at the midpoint of this race, or a little bit beyond, and only time will tell. Kimani there just taking a little look on the inside, used up one of his no, did not use up one of his push passes, just used the slipstream and got a better run coming out of turn 12. There goes a little bit on and off the braking there. I think he was maybe throwing a miss there by the corner, the car ahead of him, and is just trying to maybe figure out what is happening, but strategically thinking what is there to do. We did see him in the 140, so he does have the pace advantage here. It's just about picking his right position, and he's just there hounding Chris Elliott there in the background there as well, trying to see if he can just make inroads into the car ahead and see if he can, you know, just take a little bit out of the cars ahead and maybe mount an attack in the later stages, but is being hounded as well by Mr. Mikhail Charles of Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm assuming will be fighting, but nonetheless Mr. Dillon is now under attack by the charging Colombian and the resident Jamaican living in Japan, Mr. Rohey Robinson, the two hounding on the rear for the final 2 podium positions. This will be the fight to watch for the possible duration of this race. Mikhail Charles there does make the move on Chris Elliott. Kimani Eastman will now be looking to hopefully defend against the charging Trinidadian, and Davil Park now using up one of his pusher passes. Kimani now uses up his, and I'm sure we'll be looking to maybe go a little bit deeper on the brakes. Takes a look on the outside, uses the slipstream, uses the pusher pass. We did see Daniel Velez do it on the same Davil Park on the outside, maybe trying to switch through here, but does not work in his favor as a lead up into the outer loop, into turn 2, and there is 6 minutes remaining. Daniel Velez now with 4 push to passes, with the charging Jamaican Rohey Robinson only 2 tenths behind him. Chad Dillon now being the only one with only 3 push to passes, does set the defensive line and does get a little bit hit there, but nothing too dramatic. We did know he would just try and slow down the cars ahead, behind him, just to be as cautious as possible. Daniel Velez now hounding on the rear of that red Honda Civic, and does take a look on the outside. This would result in the outside line, and we did see him do it earlier with the outside switcheroo, but no, they are side by side. Chad Dillon now does try and hold feet, but nope. There goes Mr. Daniel Velez, and Rohey Robinson trying now to mount his attack on the car ahead of him, Mr. Chad Dillon. Rohey Robinson now in the background, just waiting. But ladies and gentlemen, is that a little drop of rain that I saw there on the screen? Again, they are right on the coast, so there is a high chance of rain even in the latter stages of this race. It is live weather, so it's not up to the server, it's entirely up to whatever is going on in Victoria, Australia. Chad Dillon there using up one of his pusher passes in defense offense against Rohey Robinson. Rohey Robinson being adamant on saying, no sir, this is my position to be had, and does make contact, and there goes Chad Dillon into the wall. Rohey Robinson does find himself in the rear of that Honda Civic, and Chad Dillon, I'm sure, will be making his way into the stewarding room at the end of this race. Rohey Robinson, Mr. Sandman himself, did make a lot of contact there, and I'm sure we'll be blaming myself on that as a commentator's curse. So definitely looking forward to that debrief after this race. Unfortunate there for Mr. Chad Dillon. Again, as we said earlier, there's a lot more rubbing than racing, but nonetheless, there goes Kimani Eastman into P4, and now Michael Charles now is taking a look on the inside of Mr. Deville Park, and they both make the move, relegating Deville Park right back to P6. Chris Elliott there right on the rear, just waiting on his moment to pounce and see who will make the mistake first. Last week, the overtake of the day was Deville Park on Michael Charles for P2 in the second race. So I am very excited to see what will happen between these two on the final or latter stages of this race. This is the moment, ladies and gentlemen, as Chris Elliott is again just looking. Nobody but Michael Charles does have push the passes available, so we know Michael Charles again, as always, in the P2P zone, will be using it to his advantage, and will definitely be looking to use it in the attack, because we know he has a pace advantage over the cars around him, and will definitely be trying his best to see if he can use it to mount an attack on the cars ahead and just gain a position here or there. But now that 7/10 gap has dwindled to a 2/10, was 2/10 only a few moments, now 3/10 into this fast left hand light coming up to turn 3. Michael Charles now looking on the outside. We know Kimani will go defensive on the inside line and protect it at all costs, but nonetheless, does Michael Charles make it move? No, he cannot. But again, with 2 push to passes remaining, they are side by side, or alongside, let me say. We did see a similar move between Daniel Velez here and Chad Dillon, and it is literally the same move, just with 2 different cars. Mr. Michael Charles is now promoted into P4. Kimani Eastman will be hoping to just use Mr. Charles there to pull him along for that P5 position, maybe even mount an attack in the latter stages. We did see Michael open the door slightly for Deville Park last week. We do know he has the pace advantage over Kimani Eastman, but nonetheless, only time can tell. Anything can happen. One deep dive into the corner and you can roll yourself off of the track. Understeer is definitely something to look forward to with this car, and with not much runoff and a lot of grass, you can expect a lot, or you can expect a driver here or there to go off the track. But nonetheless, Stéphane Tremblay, Roger Kello, Deville Park, Chris Elliott, all fighting it out. P6 to P9, P6 to P8, let me say, are all fighting it out. Chris did make up a position into P6 and now falls swiftly back into P8, and will be trying to find himself maybe in P7 or P8. Stéphane Tremblay being the best victor of all of that, to find himself back into P7. Ladies and gentlemen, please excuse me for 1 second. And I do apologize there, my throat getting a little bit dry there with the constant fighting. But there goes Chris Elliott on Stéphane Tremblay. 2 drivers literally door to door banging and just making their way through that Siberia corner into turn 7, into turn 8, heading up to turns 9 by Lukey's corner, I think it's called, heading down into the downhill section by turn 10, the MG corner. And again, the inside line is a defensive line, but nonetheless, if you have the line already, the racing line is ideal. And there goes Chris Elliott into P7 to maintain that position. Daniel Velez now using up one of his push passes to see if he can get that run away, but nonetheless, Jaden Harrison now in on the final lap in P1, a good 5 seconds away from Daniel Velez. Again, another Max Verstappen-esque of a race for him. We did mention earlier that he does typically pull away in the latter stages, but there goes Stéphane Tremblay trying to see if he can make the move back on the final lap. This is, as we stated earlier, the desperation zone, and Stéphane Tremblay does make that move stick on Chris Elliott. The race is not done, so we have 2 more overtaking zones as we head into turn 3, which is another one of them, as there is a heavy braking zone. Who will be brave on the brakes here? Is it Chris? Is it Stéphane? As Chris does take a look, does try to go deep, and does get a better run. So will he be able to push? Roger Keller now on the rear of Chris Elliott now, trying to see if he can force a move or a mistake for the car ahead. And this battle will continue for the foreseeable future. Hopefully no poor taste of overtakes or desperate in the desperation zone overtakes to be made. But nonetheless, Stéphane Tremblay 8 tenths off, Chris Elliott only 2 tenths off, and pushing. Roger Keller now is even seeing if he can find himself into the mix as they head down into turn 10. This is the next overtaking zone and the final move for him. But who is that? Is that Davil Park in the Mitsubishi Lancer? Does go off, and Chris Elliott and Stéphane Tremblay are promoted. Jaden Harrison finishes it off in P1, Daniel Velez in P2, and Rohit Robinson in P3. Mikhail Charles to rally in P4, Kimani Eastman in P5, Stéphane Tremblay in P6, Chris Elliott in P7, and Roger Keller was not able to mount an attack. Finishes off in P8, Chad Dillon in P9, Reese Savino, again unfortunate for him there in the early stages of this race. My heart goes out for him. Finishes off in the final points position in P10. Davil Park, they're losing it out in the latter stages in P11 and starting on pole, unfortunately finishing in P12 due to running off into the grass there and an incident there with himself and Mikhail Charles. Mr. Nicholas Donald in P12. Ladies and gentlemen, I will rally the troops for the interviews quickly. Please be on standby. And ladies and gentlemen, that does bring this week's race to a conclusion. This week we do have our top 3 from the first race sitting in the second race. So we will be beginning with the man himself, Mr. Daniel Velez. Yes, you came in P2 in the first race, correct? And
Yeah,
then
I came in
P2 in the
P2 and
second.
P2 again.
Right. So let me just get everything started. 1 second there, bro. All right, Daniel, good evening, brother. Thank you so much as always for racing. Um, you finished P2 in the first race as well as P2 in the second race. So definitely, I'm sure you wanted that P1 position, but you did have a few incidents here and there in the first race. Could you walk us through that? I think there was I think it was a slight dive bomb there. I'm not sure if we got it correct into turn 1 or turn 2. Could you walk us through the first race?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Always racing with you guys is awesome and very fun. So yeah, the incident on the first race was actually like on the fourth turn or fifth turn. Um, so we were, very, very close, and I think it was Roger who came to the inside. He braked a lot later than me, and for his braking, I thought that he was going to totally go outside of the track, so I tried the switchback and go for the inside, but he stepped on the brakes and was able to keep the car, but he was totally a step on the brake in the middle of the turn. So when I did the switchback, there was nothing for me to do. I could not avoid him, and I hit him pretty bad. I'm sorry about it. I do not know if it was really my fault, but if it was, I'm sorry about it, Roger.
Mm. I mean, it was unfortunate there. At some points in this race, we did say that rubbing is racing, but there seemed like a lot more rubbing than racing. Well, more in the second race than the first race. But nonetheless, we know that anything that happened between you two was definitely nothing intentional. And again, rubbing is racing, especially in the Caribbean touring cars, so we're not surprised by it. But unfortunate there. But nonetheless, could you walk us through the second race, especially during that little safety car incident?
Yeah, totally. So the launch was great. I was gaining a lot of positions. I don't know if I don't I'm not completely sure if maybe because I knew that Jaden was a bit behind me, and
Uh-huh.
I was attempting to give him the space, but I do not remember if maybe someone else was also going for him with the space, and I saw that he like spawned. I do not know really if maybe I cut him up or what happened there. And then something else happened in the front. I was able to catch until P3. So yeah, that definitely helped me a lot. But then after the launch, all of the tires were totally cold. And on the second turn, uh, both P1 and P2 went a lot of on the outside. I was carrying my speed normally. I knew that I could handle it, but it seems that they were, going over the speed that they could handle, and both first and second place stepped on the brakes in the middle of the turn, and I encountered with Luis Arenas, and I hit him, and the same thing back. Again on that at that moment, there was nothing for me to do. I also hit the brakes, but the inertia of the car is
Yeah.
going to take you to the outside. So yeah, nothing to do for me there. Also, very unfortunate with Luis, because he was racing for P1 at the moment. And then from that moment, it was attempting to catch um, first and second place, but Jaden was flying. Nothing to do with that, man.
No, he's definitely found his foot in the air in the Caribbean touring cars, I can tell you that. Every week with the Max Verstappen-esque of a racing driver. So, I mean, honestly, unless he puts a foot wrong himself, it's very hard to catch him. But I'm at least glad that the gaps are dwindling more and more as the racing is going on. Though, Daniel, I know you don't get much practice in the week, so your practice is basically in the official practice right before the servo starts. But nonetheless, bro, your commitment to racing with us is always commendable, bro, and I really appreciate your consistency with us.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's always fun. These cars are great. They're really great. The bikes are amazing.
They are.
The tracks are being great also. So thank you so much for having us here, and you know, best wishes for the next one.
Bless you, bro. And I will see you tomorrow in Chase for Pace for round one of the Praga Cup. So a lot of exciting stuff this weekend.
Yes, sir. That's correct. Attempting to go for the podium there also.
This is one time I'll be fighting you out, though, bro. I'm sorry, but nonetheless, there's no favoritism in this thing.
No
But good
worries, mate.
luck. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Good night, all. Take care.
Yes, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, that was uh, Luis Daniel Velez of Noble Racing, who, again, every week has found himself with us racing, whether in the Caribbean Touring Car or in the Chase for Pace series. So, as always, very appreciative of him and his team that does represent as often as they can. As I said earlier, Carlos Villavicencio did always tries his best to make it for the races, but unfortunately, it does have work. And there are a lot more members of that Colombian team. But nonetheless, we have a race winner from the first race, Mr. Rohe Robinson, and coming, was it third place in the second race? Yes, third place in the second race. Mr. Rohe Robinson, can you hear me?
Hey, I'm here.
How you sound so defeated there, sir?
Yes, I don't like I didn't like the way that I got those positions.
Right.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
you can just walk us through quickly race one, and then we'll definitely get started on race two.
I mean, race one was a pretty decent race for me, especially in the first part. I was surprised by the pace that Jaden had in qualifying, but I knew that my race pace would probably be a little bit better, or I was hoping. But I actually used push to pass to try and catch him up so I can
We
put
saw.
added pressure on him, and which I think it worked because up until the incident I was catching,
Mm-hmm.
and for that final turn before the incident, I saw that Jaden made a mistake. So going into that corner, I was just trying to get a better run out of that corner before him, but not before, but a better exit out of that corner. But I think I misjudged his speed exiting that corner, and unfortunately, I tap him in the back. Just to make clear, Jaden, I'm really sorry about that incident. I should have been more patient. I would have given back the position, but I was hoping that he would pass the other two, then I would give him back the position. But I guess we'll let the stewards deal with that.
So that was in race one.
Yeah, race one.
Unfortunately, we didn't get that on stream. So I
Oh,
did
really?
say,
I
yeah,
confess.
No. So I did say that you can't blame me for this one. Well, it wasn't that moment, but there was another moment when we did come off of you and you did find yourself into an incident. And I did state on the stream that there's no way you're blaming for this one. So that's two incidents you can't blame me for this evening, sir. But we can talk briefly about the second race now. What happened? What happened there? I saw there was an incident there, unfortunately, with Mr. Dillon in the
Yeah.
latter stages for P3.
Mhm. Yeah, I was just giving the two guys space to battle, Velez and Chad,
Right.
and just pounce on an opportunity, right? Um, I think going into that final stretch and being beside Chad, I saw that even before I was behind Chad on that straight. I saw that there was a little rubber banding issue, so I pulled to the inside.
Right.
I think by the end of that corner we were side by side, but I pulled out because I was on the outside. and I think I got another run exiting that corner, but it's like, you know, network issues, I
Right.
guess, because the car just rubber band into mine, and unfortunately that was an incident.
Ouchie, ouchie,
So,
ouchie. Well,
uh,
unfortunately, another week in the steward's office you go. But nonetheless, if you do have your proof, you can show it that it's not necessarily you, but more the software issues or the network issues. So
yeah.
we know you're not somebody who does things intentionally, unless it's to
Oh,
Jaden Harrison. But other than him, we do know you as a very, very, very clean racer, and as always, very proud to have you on board with us, Mr. Robinson.
thank you. I'll try to do better next time. Meanwhile, I'm one of the. I think I would classify myself as among the top drivers in this series, so
Right.
I should be more patient and, incident free. So,
That was very
um,
humble from you, Mr. Robinson, but definitely. No, but I
I'll try to.
definitely do agree with you, though.
More.
You know where you need to work on, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it will come. This is our development series, so even the best of us still have room to develop. So hopefully, sooner than later, I will even have somebody over here to manage the stream itself, so I can finally get myself on track with you guys and enjoy the festivities alongside with you and Mr. Dillon and Mr. Harrison out there.
I mean, big things are coming, so in the near future, I think you will have that manpower to do it.
Definitely, and those
Mm.
announcements will come to the public sooner than later once everything has been approved. But as Mr. Robinson did say, we do have some very big news hoping to announce in the very soon stages of the JSRA. But stay tuned as always to our social medias. But nonetheless, that was Mr. Rohey Robinson, admin here at the JSRA, one of my closer friends and somebody that we really enjoy having here on track. We'll never miss it, even if with a was it a broken hand or a not a broken hand, but a fractured hand, let's say.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, Rohey, thank you so much for joining us always, brother.
All right. Thank you.
We'll
Thank you for
talk
having me.
soon,
All
definitely.
right.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Rohey Robinson finishing race 1 in P1 and race 2 in P3. But nonetheless, Mr. Jaden Harrison did start only 3 thousandths off of the 139 in qualifying on pole position. Started very strong, unfortunately, there with an incident between himself and Rohey Robinson. Rohey did apologize. And that did take Jaden out of P1 and contention for a podium in the first race. Well, Jaden, where did you finish in the first race?
P3.
P3, right. My apologies. Because both, it was a repeat of the podium, right. So you did lose that top step of the podium. My apologies there, Jaden, due to a little incident there. Could you walk us through what happened?
Yeah, so I basically was going to the corner like normal, and I guess Roy missed his breaking point, and yeah, that's how it go from there. But yeah, that's how it go. I had a good battle with Mikhail on
I
the
saw
last
it.
couple of drag race to the line,
Yes.
but yeah, just simple from there. Race 1, I was going to kind of slow down and try bunch back the pack, but then race 1, where they were really slow down. So I was like, you know what, let me just
Keep it
continue and
going.
just put on some laps and it's simple.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, you did bring up, I completely forgot it. That fight between you and Mikhail was commendable because I think for the first time, and I could be misreading it, but for the first time, I did think I saw you and Mikhail doing a little bit of pack racing there, where you weren't necessarily fighting each other, but pushing each other along up until the final stages of that race. Could you just walk us through that battle quickly before we get into race 2?
Yeah, he basically just sat behind me and just kind of stayed close, and then on the last corner he pushed the pass
Right.
But he did it a little early.
Right.
He ran out before the line, and I did it later and just got the run to the line.
Nice. Nice.
So that's just how it goes.
So let me just ask you quickly with race 2 now, after the safety car, I noticed you in P3, was it? So you again immediately making some moves up into the top step of the podium. Last week we did note you um, fancying a little bit of early movements there. Can you walk us through the safety car restart and the lead up to P1 for the rest of that race?
I think I just brake boosted and got a better launch, and then I got the undercut into the corner on Nick Donald. I wasn't trying to, use so much time fighting, so I just kind of sit behind him, got
Right.
the undercut in, and just ran away. So
Nice.
it was pretty simple to use ahead and race.
Use your head. And what a drive as always, Mr. Harrison. Again, you are our resident Max Verstappen, Kimani Eastman being her resident, Lando Norris, who we're still yet to see with a top step podium here at the JSRA. But in due time, I'm sure, especially with the training that he gets in the evenings with you and the rest of them. But nonetheless, Jaden, what an epic drive from both races, bro. Thank you so much as always for joining. It's always a pleasure to have you here on track with us.
It was pretty good, very good race. So you tune in next week, more battles like this.
And next week is the
Great.
Sydney Motorsports Park, another track that we used in the Radical Championship. So, drivers will be familiar. We're hoping that the grid will fill out even more again. But nonetheless, we know our typical drivers will be here in full fashion and full support here. They enjoy the racing, as you've heard. And we are definitely inviting others. If you're interested in joining, please do not be shy. I might be a little bit on the miserable side from time to time, but it's only because we want to enforce a good competitive and clean environment for racing. So ladies and gentlemen, we as always thank you for joining us this evening for round 2. We will see you next week for round 3. We'll actually see you tomorrow for round 1 of the Praga Cup, which you will be seeing Mr. Harrison, Mr. Daniel Velez, and a few others from the JSRA representing and doing their best in the Chase for Pace season finale. So once the Praga Cup is done, we will be tallying the points and the finals will be concluded, and we will be taking a 1-month break, but we still have more racing to do. We have the Formula 4 Championship on Sundays. We will never give up on our Caribbean touring cars, and we'll just be revamping the Saturday series to engage more drivers in the foreseeable future. And we'll have one serious month, and then we'll have a unincentivized month where it's just open for drivers to come in. So please, ladies and gentlemen, we're not limited to just Jamaica. If you are interested, join us, enjoy the racing with us. We would love to have you. We enjoy the fun in the on track, and you guys are always and I must say we've been getting a lot of inbox and DMs on our Instagram, and all those who have been showing their support to say that they're enjoying these races. I do 110% appreciate the laughs, and I appreciate the kind words, because without you guys and without number one God, we would not be in this position. So as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and I bid you a good night. Yes, Mr. Wallace, I will definitely make sure I'll have my JSRA shirt on for the next race next week, on Sunday. After church, we will have our Formula 4 Championship round 3, which will be Sebring in the very high chance for rain. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for a lot more racing, a lot more competition, and clean, hard, non-stop action. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been your host, Stephen Stewart, and this has been an epic showing from these drivers. I appreciate you listening to my banter, and we will see you soon. We are coming up to as
man. So
there is a run.
outside. Oh yeah.
Ooh, he tried the switcheroo.
Yeah. You came and failed the test, you met the best, expected chess, but got monopoly. I came and bought you out, I knocked you out, I crouched you out with no apologies. I am the hope, the heart, the faith, the spark, the one who will fulfill the prophecy. I just been counting, never lounging, climbing up mountains, bouncing back. Step in the ring, about you step back. They'll learn hot when I get on the track. I like it louder the most. Watching all these sheep just buy down to the goat. If I can't decide, I'ma probably get both. We didn't celebrate, but right now I'm a toast. Resurrected
Here
ghost.
is Eastman going side by side.